With the bye round behind us, Penrith sit on top of the league at the moment on 18 points, joined by Cronulla, Brisbane and Melbourne to round off that top 4. Bottom half of the 8s on 16 points you have the Bunnies, the Dolphins, the Canberra Raiders, and to round off the 8s, the Warriors on 14 points. In terms of picks, we went 3 from 5, we went super safe and 2 of the underdogs got up. My Brizzy Broncos and the Canberra Raiders, who we were on the fence about, I'll say that. As for Odsky's Bakery, the 2 try scorers pulled out of the 5, Mitch Moses coming through yet again, and Dallin Watene-Zelezniak. Also, we did have Campbell Graham, and although he didn't play, they did still score on that side, so not taking it, just saying. But yeah, we've got a pretty packed week of rugby league coming up. We have footy on from Wednesday up until Sunday. As for State of Origin, as a Queensland supporter, I'm obviously backing the Maroons to get the job done. I'm really looking forward to Reece Walsh's debut on the big stage and the back and forth between the front row in particular. There's been a lot of question marks surrounding that Tevita Pangai Jr. selection. Whether he actually starts or not will be up in the air until they bloody take the field. Him and Haas going up against Flegler and Collins, that's guaranteed fireworks. Not to mention there's aggressive players as well, mixing it up, Liam Martin, Hudson Young, Jai Arrow, Tom Gilbert. Bruh, interstate enemies, but those boys are cut from the same cloth. Needless to say, I'm excited. We're taking Queensland in a close one, and for funsies, for Odsky's Bakery, we'll go with 1 player from each team. For Queensland, Harry Grant, and for the Blues, Nathan Cleary. But today's all about the NRL, so let's take a gaze at the fixtures for round 14. The first game of the week is an interesting one. We have the West Tigers taking on the Canberra Raiders. The Tigers coming off an absolute beating. Well, they're coming off a bye, but prior to that, they destroyed the North Queensland Cowboys. For the Raiders, they're coming off an upset against the South Sydney Rabbitohs in Sydney. In terms of ins and outs, they do have Api Koroisau named, despite him playing later today. To be fair, they had a bunch of Origin players named last year as well that didn't end up playing, so take those Origin selections in these regular lineups with a grain of salt. As for their ins, they got a whole bunch of players in reserves pretty much. Your Brett Naden, Dane Lauries and Matamuz. For the Raiders, they'll be without Corey Harawira-Naida and Jared Croker, who has been rested. Plenty of chats around whether he should have been rested or not. So jumping into the centres, they got Albi Hopoate, who's been on a bit of a heater these past few weeks, or whenever he does play, and Nick Kotrick slides onto the wing. As for my pick, it's purely dependent on if Api backs up, because I don't think he will. I will be siding with the Raiders in this one. I mean, their forward pack, talk about heaters, they're on one at the moment. Papali'i, Joey Tapine, and Corey Horsburgh, who has been named out on the edge yet again. They also have Hudson Young named as well, but again, it's unlikely. But yeah, my pick for this game, I do think the Raiders get it done in an absolute grinder, so we'll take them by 1-12. In Game 2 to kick off Super Saturday, we are back in New Zealand where the Warriors will be hosting the Redcliffe Dolphins. The Finns coming into this game off a comfortable win against the Dragons, which makes them 3 from their last 5. As for the Warriors, they're coming into this off a loss to the Broncos, and they are currently 1 from 5 in terms of form. Granted, there is a bye in there, and the 4 losses are to more than formidable opponents. In terms of ins and outs, for the Waz, they have some absolute weapons returning in Dylan Walker, Mitch Barnett, and Wade Egan. So Dylan Walker and Barnett, they joined the bench. Wade Egan straight back into that hooking role for Freddie Lussick. And for the Finns, they got a bunch of ins, but that is all reserves. So their side's pretty much the same from last week. As for my pick in this match, another toughie, one of those fence sitter type games. But we'll be hopping off on the side of the New Zealand Warriors, who will be looking to bounce back after a pretty disappointing loss. You'd expect the Warriors to kick on during this period, especially with the way their forward pack's going at the moment. I do see them bouncing back at home. They will be close to full strength, and with Luke Metcalf having a bit of a shaky start in his debut, we should see a more polished or a more comfortable performance from Lukey Metcalf, and their attack, they did look a little flatter than usual. But yeah, give me the Waz on the strength of their returns. Egan around the ruck, the spark off the bench and Dylan Walker, and of course Mitch Barnett through the middle. We'll take him in a close one, so 1-12. In the second game for Super Saturday, we head to the Gold Coast, where the Titans will be hosting the South Sydney Rabbitohs. In terms of ins and outs, some interesting selections in both. We'll start with the Gold Coast Titans. They got Kano Kenny coming in, who'll be at fullback with Jaden Campbell moving to the 6. They also welcome back Isaac Fa'asua-Maleaui to the bench, as well as Sam Verrills. They've also got their Origin boys backing up in Tino and David Fifita. For the Bunnies, coming off a disappointing, now I say disappointing, and I mean about the results, they actually played pretty well without some guns. On their ins list, they got Cab Murray backing up, as well as Jai Arrow, and Campbell Graham named in the centres yet again. As for my pick, both these teams, plenty points in them. I do dig how the Titans are giving Kano Kenny a crack in the 1 jersey. I'm intrigued to see how he does, as well as Jaden Campbell in the 6. Those are a couple of players for me to watch. Back to my pick, I do think the Bunnies will be a little too much for the Titans to handle. Yes, the Titans have plenty of points in them, but they also let in just as many as they dish out. That, and I'm just never confident taking the Titans, even against the mid to low tier teams. So give me the Bunnies on the road and the Titans to keep it tight 1-12. And for the main course, for Super Saturday, we have a banger between the Cronulla Sharks and the Brisbane Broncos. Shark is coming off that bye. Prior to that, they are coming into this one off back-to-back wins, currently 4 from their last 5. As for the Broncos, an upset against the Warriors, as we all know, and their overall form heading into this, currently 2 from their last 5. Ins and outs, starting with the home team, a massive in the form of Siosifa Talakai as he returns to the centres. The rest of the ins are to the reserves, Braden Trindle, 18th man. And for the Broncos, they could see Koriota make his return back to the starting side for Jesse Arthurs as Koriota is in reserves. And they've got their 5 origin players backing up. As well as Nico Hines for the Sharkies, who will most likely back up as he is coming in off the bench for the Blues. But yeah, my pick. If the Broncos can get all their boys back, I do fancy a Broncos upset. I'm not sure if they're favourites or not. It's another massive test for the Broncos, who, not for nothing, have been losing to the big dogs. We said there were 2 from their last 5. Those losses were to the Panthers, the Storm, and the Rabbitohs. They were somewhat full strength against the Bunnies. Actually, I think that was the game they were without Payne Haas, and they ended up getting pumped through the middle. And against the Storm and Panthers, they were Adam Reynolds-less. And now they're coming up against another big dog in the league. At full strength, I'm taking the Broncos for the upsets, but because there's a little uncertainty with Origin yet to take place, I'm going to go with the Broncos to get it done 1-12. I do think at full strength they could roll the Sharks. But yeah, we just don't know whether these lads will back up or not, so I'll stick with the Bronx to get an upset 1-12. In the first of 3 games on Sunday, we have the Sydney Roosters taking on the Canterbury Bankstown Bulldogs. In terms of ins and outs, starting with the Roosters, they welcome back Daniel Dubois, Jared Waerea-Hargreaves, Joey Manu, and they've got Junior Paua on the wing with Jackson Paulo in reserves. For the Bulldogs, they just have a bunch of players named in reserves. Their origin players like Addo Carr, Tavita Pangai Jr. A pretty cut and dry pick for me, on paper at least. The Roosters are in need of a pick-me-up. Currently on a 3-game losing streak. I do think they'll bounce back in a major way against a young, hearty Bulldogs pack who won't go down without a fight. I'm interested to see how the Bulldogs approach this game. There's no doubt it'll be entertaining because the Bulldogs, no matter who they play, they're always on go, go, go. But like I said, the Roosters are due for a big bounce back, and this is low-key the perfect game for them to get their season back on track. So we'll take them 13+. Although stranger things have happened this season, I mean, surely they don't lose this. But yeah, like I said, give me the Roosters, give me 13+. The second game for Sunday, we have the North Queensland Cowboys hosting the Melbourne Storm. This obviously at Country Bank Stadium. We have a whole bunch of ins for the Cowboys. Actually, it's like the Bulldogs, they got their origin players in reserves, so there's that. They do have, again, Jason Taumololo named in reserves, and Jeremiah Nanai named on the bench. For the Storm, their boys are expected to back up as well. Cam Munster at 5'8", Harry Grant at hooker. And as for my pick, so a few weeks ago I was off the Cowboys after getting done by the Sharks, only for them to come back and look like their 2022 selves, beating both the Roosters and the Dragons in back-to-back weeks. They're coming into this one back-to-back losses to the Eels and that historic Tigers win. For the Storm, they've looked just as inconsistent, just not as bad as the Cows. They're currently 3 from their last 5. Coming into this game, riding back-to-back wins against both the Broncos and the Dolphins, both impressive wins might I add, as both the Finns and the Broncos have been towards the top of the league so far this season. But yeah, my pick, I'm going to go with the Storm in this one. Grant, Munster, Hughes, if all playing, should be enough to get the job done, and we'll go with the Cowboys to keep it tight. Give me the Storm 1-12. And to wrap up the round, we have the Penrith Panthers at Bluebet Stadium taking on the St. George Illawarra Dragons. So the ins and outs will start with the home team. Isaac Tango and Spencer Leniu will be expected back in the 17-man squad as they are in reserves. And for the Dragons, we got Ben Hunt, Jaden Suter. Hunt will most likely back up, so there really isn't much to break down or say about this game, as I do think it will be a pretty comfortable win for the Panthers at home. They could potentially be without Nathan Cleary, depending on the outcome of tonight's match. But yeah, I'm trying to see or look for positives with the Dragons. And I'm not going to lie, I don't really see a pathway to victory. The Panthers are starting to find their groove, and I think it'll be much of the same from what we've seen these past 3 weeks, where they break teams down and start firing late. So we're going to go with the Panthers. No surprises there. We're going to go with a comfortable win, a cruisy win, 13+. And that's about it for round 14, 7 games. We're taking the Raiders 1-12, the Warriors 1-12, the Bunnies 1-12, the Broncos 1-12. I think that's the only upset we're taking. We then have the Roosters 13+, the Storm on the road 1-12, and the Panthers 13+ at home. As per, there'll be a list of Oddski's Bakery, aka Try Scorers, and let us know who you got this week in the comment section down below. But yeah, if you did enjoy that, be sure to run and hit that like button, and I will catch you lads tomorrow morning for the Origin review. Thank you for tuning in, and I'll see you later.
Give me that. I want the smoke, I don't care if you broke, go and give me that. Don't choke on the smoke, watch me hit him with a kickback. Hezzy, step back, kick back. No, he ain't.